Hello, my name is Bart Brecka. In a previous video, we established a model that was an R&D perspective type model. In this video, we want to turn that model and subsequent assembly into a manufactured part or assembly. So here's the model, and you can see I have no draft, no rounds, and this cylindrical wall doesn't have any draft on it either. So let's proceed. So if I left click on this plane, I notice this pop up here that there's no draft. So I'm going to organize myself and type in draft here and drag that to my pop-up window. It'd be really cool if I could organize this in terms of how Alias did its marker menu from the 90s. All right, so probably let's go ahead and add the draft now. The typical way one would put draft on is with the neutral plane. I'm going to pick the face to draft. I really wish preview was always on. Here I've got 10 degrees draft, which is a bit excessive. Great, I can see my draft now. If I wanted to add draft to another wall, I would do so. All right, so I've got three faces drafted with the preview. Great. So if I add a round to this edge after the draft is occurring, I can roll my mouse over the round variable and essentially get the draft, the round to grow. In this case, notice my edges are parallel. I'm going to delete the draft and Control Z here. Delete the draft and establish my rounds ahead of time. Okay, I can roll my mouse to change the variables and then put draft on here. So I like to pre-select, fetch my draft. The faces to draft, I can right hold down and select tangency. Now I've got that whole edge tangential and preview to see the draft. Now that's great and everything, and it's positive draft, but I may want my split line to be down the middle, or the draft parting line down the middle. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that and establish a split line. So if I grab a datum plane, notice I don't have split line in my marker menu here. Customize it and type in split line. There it is. I'll just drag it over. Great. Now let's test it. Split line. Great. And I've got the intersected version of the split line, so I can right hold down and select tangency. There's a split line. I need to do the other side as well. Notice there's no draft on this round. This is going to present kind of a challenge. So to establish draft on this cylindrical face, notice I've gone ahead and put in an extruded surface. I did this in a previous video. That's going to fail here in a moment, but rather easy to fix. Now, if I establish my assembly with that axis that emulates from that extruded surface, I'm more effective with the team. All right, so notice how each sketch that I create gets clumped into the feature itself. If I right hold down at the top here and reach for tree display, show flat tree view, I can turn on those sketches, and ultimately in that sketch I can see the center of this circle. If I double click on the sketch, it edits definitions on the sketch, which is super handy. I feel compelled to square up on this thing. I'm going to left click on the circle itself and turn it to construction geometry. So this is something we do in forging and plastic part design quite a bit, especially as we take things from an R&D perspective and push them into manufacturing. So here what I've done is I've created an eyelet. I'm going to go ahead now and establish tangency at the top and the bottom. I'll put a leg on this geometry so I can establish tangency on all three of these faces. I'll turn that to construction geometry. Let's establish tangency across here and here. Great. Now we need to get a theta. So what I do is I bring this datum plane in. I'm sorry. Reference edges to dimension to. So I'm going to do that again. This is pretty cool. So if you've got something picked other than the dimension tool, you can right hold down and fetch the smart dimension out of your right mouse button. And what I'm doing is I'm clicking on the center and then clicking on this gizmo, and I can get the acute version of that angle. Pretty handy. This length is irrelevant, but necessary if I intend to make symmetry. Here's my symmetric axis. Great. Let's drive this to 15 and see how it behaves. My goal is to make this thing symmetric, not quite black, but we'll worry about that later. Now I expected this feature to fail. This sketch was tied to the edge that's no longer there. Consequently, I get these olive green broken references. Let's just remove them, hit the space bar and square up on my sketch, and then I can reestablish those references. This is the type of thing experts do without kind of thinking or complaining, and necessary if you're going to be considered an expert. All right, so I noticed that I dimensioned symmetry across here. I see. So if I change this to 5, it's symmetric. That makes pretty good sense. I'll leave that. Just looking to see what other references there are. This is an interesting failure because the circle is no longer valid. This sketch can't be relative concentric to the cylindrical face because it's no longer a concentric circle anymore. So that's an interesting fail. I'm just going to move it out of the way a little bit. Because I have this sketch unhidden, I can now grab the center of that circle and establish a coincident constraint with that. That's pretty handy to be able to manage failures in the assembly. Let's go and finish the draft. I didn't put draft on this wall, but I now have draft on this cylindrical wall. That's pretty cool. So I'm going to click on this parting line. I have my draft tool. Let's do the parting line version of this draft. So I can right hold down on that split line and hit select tangency. I want the second direction and the split line to go there. What 10 and symmetric draft, that looks great. I didn't see preview picked. All right, and I've got to do the same thing to the other side, and of course the same thing to this cylindrical face. Let's update the assembly and see how it looks. I expect some problems here. Right, so let's work through these failures. That's part of being an expert is you can work through these failures without too much pain. I'm just going to delete the concentric edge. This one doesn't have any references, so we're good on him. And I like to pull one out of the way just a little bit so I can see through there. I don't have my axes turned on. Let's turn those on. So that center axis is the one I'm looking for. Build that assembly constraint. There we go. Looks good. double check it. Let's do the same thing to this one. This next checkbox here is the fact that I don't care about adding a third constraint. All right, so this extrude circle here can correspond to its equivalent over on the other side. Great, and we'll just hit the mate there. I'll check out of it and check out of it. Oh, this one doesn't have a reference down the center. We'll go ahead and establish that reference. Great. Check out of him again, and then exercise the geometry to see if it works. Great. It's my printer chain. Right, now pretty much any other changes I make shouldn't fail unless I built some references incorrectly. So let's go back over to the part itself and then finish adding our draft like we're doing. So I have to do the split line. Oh, I need to add rounds first, don't I? Let's do that. Here, I'm going to redefine this fillet and add those rounds here so that they're the same. Less of a chance to make a mistake. Notice my mouse is suggesting that I could hit my right mouse button. Great, let's add another split line. So I pre-select the face, grab my split line, right hold down, select tangency, enter. Do the draft now, pre-select the plane, hit draft, right hold down, select tangency. Great. Let's establish that for the same on both sides, symmetrical tangency. I wish preview would be always on. There's never a time where I don't want preview on. I would expect preview to be in a gearbox up here somewhere, but I don't believe it is. Now I have to establish the draft on this wall. Before I do so, however, let's do a draft analysis so we can see the problem. Draft analysis tool. I picked the datum plane for the parting line, and you'll notice that everything that's green is positive in one direction, everything that's red is positive in the other, and you can quickly see where I forgot to add draft. And in this case, I've neglected to add draft here. This yellow section here is going to give me a scrape mark in the tool after about 10,000 cycles of pulling a plastic part out of the model. And of course I forgot over here too. So in some other packages, you can save this analysis. The edge, it'll let me fetch round out of the model, and then it'll let me pick the other side as well. We have to do another split line. So pre-select the datum plane, hit the split line, right hold down, select tangency, enter. So pre-select the plane, hit the draft tool, use the parting line version, right hold down, select tangency. We want preview to always be on. Symmetrical draft. There's preview, enter. Great, now I have to establish the same thing over here. So to do that, I double click on the sketch to take it back to the sketch, square up on it if you feel compelled to, left click, turn to construction geometry. Great, establish tangency here and here, a little bit redundant. Let's build this geometry the way we did before. While that's highlighted, I would reach for construction geometry, establish my tangencies, establish the angle, theta. Great. Exercise it to see it flexure through the rotation. I need 15. I need 10, but I'm going to set it to 15 for now. This number is irrelevant. Check out of it. Now what's going to fail? This circle that I extruded as a surface in a previous video and the cut at the top. Great. So if you can anticipate what's going to fail, you're way more confident in your ability to utilize the tool and manage failures. We'll reestablish this reference. Great. Now we've got that that sketch. Easy to fix. Now I just pull it off to the side. I can see what reference it had tried to constrain to. This circle is extruded as a surface to establish an axis where I can manage building the assembly without fail. Let's click. So what I did is I had hidden this surface extrude, so I unhid it so I could fetch the selection out of the assembly. Okay, let's reestablish that reference. This one to this one. Now I'm being smarter about what references I make. This one is probably already assembled correctly. All right, so any changes I make won't affect my assembly if you use these surface extrudes to build your assembly. You know, maybe the hole comes later. Of course, it needs to have a hole to function properly. All right, so consider a class at Design Engine. We look forward to having you.